You have your Bibles, open them please to Psalm 103. Psalm 103. Well, congratulations. You've made it. You're here. You are in a rare and distinctive place. Obviously, from looking around, you can tell that this is a Christian worship center. That's plain, isn't it? But it is a rare and distinctive place for Christian worship. It was not built with the baptistry anywhere. It was not built with the Lord's Supper table anywhere. Brick by brick, this place was built for a very distinctive purpose. For the worship and spiritual instruction of ministers. It is a place for ministers to come before God, and ministers only. No church meets in this facility. In most seminaries, you'll find their chapel. They all have a place of worship for chapel. In most seminaries, you'll find it a room within a larger building, attached to a larger building. This is separated from every other building on the campus. It was built as a place for ministers to come before God. And you are here for God to speak to your heart and for you to speak back with God in worship and in prayer. This is your place. Forget about the congregations you serve. Forget about the wide work of ministry in which you are involved. You are here in your place to be you as you truly are, to be you where you are, to be you as you are before God right now. I want to talk with you just a few moments about what to do with ordinary. What to do with ordinary. If you were to have asked my mom before she passed away, or if you were to have asked my high school girlfriend, yes, there was one girl before Rhonda. She did. And if you were to ask my wife of 45 years on June the 21st of this summer, if you were to ask her right now, she would tell you that the way you see me right now is the way I would love to dress every single day of my life. I don't look anything like a seminary president. I don't look anything like somebody who's an entity head of an SBC entity. I just look ordinary. People have a habit of thinking because you are serving in a role like a seminary president or an entity head that your life is really busy. And people tell me that all the time. Oh, thank you for being here. I know you're so busy. Or thank you for taking the time to talk to the phone. I know you're so busy. I hear that all the time. And I have to work to keep from laughing because let me just ask this simple question. Does anybody here have a busy life? Okay? All of us face this battle called ordinary. The ordinary day. The day that can be filled up with meetings or work assignments or projects or hospital visits or teaching school or working for that government agency or ferrying kids to and from school or ball practice or the piano recital. All of us have days that just fill up. And it's the ordinary days that are so important to your life as a minister. Somebody once said the problem with life is that it's so daily, over and over and over and over and over again. Full, fuller, and there's never a fullest because it keeps expanding. And there's a problem that ordinary the ordinary day, the ordinary week, the ordinary year in your life and ministry, there's a problem that ordinary brings. The news this morning when I was listening to the Today Show, as I was having my cereal this morning for breakfast, one of the big stories was about the measles outbreak that's happening. So they're quarantining and shutting down a whole college campus, and 2 people from an international flight landed in the U.S., and they infected people on that plane, and those people have infected other people. And trying to stop this outbreak of the measles is a really big story right now. Well, ordinary carries a highly infectious disease. Ordinary carries the highly infectious disease of amnesia. Amnesia. It makes you forget. Who would have ever thought? The children of Israel in Egypt watched God bring all those plagues against Pharaoh and the land of Egypt until he finally said, "Go, leave." Unbelievable, incredible plagues. How often do you see it raining frogs? Does that happen to you real often? How often do you watch, just imagine the Mississippi River turning to blood. Incredible, incredible demonstration of the power of God directed very specifically for a very particular purpose. And then when Pharaoh changed his mind as they got to the shores of the Red Sea, they saw all those chariots coming. They had forgotten that God had delivered them from Egypt. And they knew they were going to die. And they knew it was all over. And they got really angry with Moses. Why did you bring us out here so we could get slaughtered by the Egyptians? And they forgot the 10 plagues. How do you forget the 10 plagues? And then what did God do? Opened up the sea before them. They walked through with dry feet. And when Pharaoh's chariots tried to follow them, what did God do? Closed the sea. Destroyed Pharaoh's army. One of the great, such a great miracle, America celebrates it every Easter by showing the 10 Commandments. Every Easter. Every Easter. They forgot, didn't they? And the story of Israel's journey from Egypt to the Promised Land is the story of amnesia afflicting them. And it isn't just them. It's us as well. Anybody here ever experienced the deliverance of God? Have you ever experienced it? Okay. Anybody ever seen God work in an amazing way to deliver you, to help you in a particular circumstance? Have you seen that happen before? Okay. Anybody here ever get worried after that happened once that it might not happen again? Amnesia. What do you do with ordinary? Because ordinary, that stuff that happens every day, day in, day out, day in, day out, day in, day out, week. When ordinary infects you with amnesia. Psalm 103. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me. Bless his holy name. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all of his benefits. Now, right away, we know when God inspired David to write these words, God is saying he understands this problem we have with amnesia, that we are likely to forget what God does. We are not likely to forget what God does because we have lousy memories. We are likely to forget what God does because what God did gets shoved out of our mind by the tumult of ordinary, of the stuff that happens every day, of those things that just go on and on are part of life, and it pushes us further and further away from those experiences we've had of seeing God's work in a way that we knew God was at work. Bless the Lord, O my soul, all that is within me. Bless his holy name. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all of his benefits. Most of the time, bless is used as a verb. God is doing the blessing. To bless is to transfer, to give over, to impart to someone. The very essence, the very best, the very good that you could do. And God is said to bless his children. Over and over and over in the Bible, it talks about God blessing his children. But God is not the one blessing here. The psalmist says, bless the Lord, O my soul. I want to give God something that God doesn't have right now. I want to give God something that God doesn't have right now. My blessing. One of the ways that you and I need to handle ordinary is to use those occasions when ordinary is surrounding us, engulfing us, overwhelming us, is to take that opportunity and remember and just bless the Lord for where you are in the midst of your ordinary. For you to intentionally bless him. And I love the language, bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me. Bless his holy name. My wife has these stories. She has a very vivid imagination, and Rhonda makes up these incredible stories of me getting focused on things and sort of being oblivious to the world around me. I mean, she makes up these stories like the time I was at the airport and the pastor search committee of our church, First Baptist New Orleans, several years ago looking for a pastor. They were all there at the airport. They were on my flight. They were getting ready to call our flight, and I was thinking about something and got completely absorbed. And the entire pastor search committee got in a circle and stood all around me and kept stepping in closer and closer to me. They were almost touching me before I knew they were even there. She makes up these stories. I don't know where in the world she gets these about me getting absorbed in things. It's not unusual for me if I'm in a restaurant or someplace eating by myself. I might be having breakfast, having a cup of coffee. Now, I'm very polite. I had a wonderful mom who taught me good manners and a wonderful dad who made sure I listened to my mom teaching me good manners. And so if that waitress comes by and pours a cup of coffee, I may not have any idea of her face. I may not know anything about her. I may not know if it's a guy or a girl. But I'll say thank you just instinctively when they just pass by. This is not that. This is turning and giving your whole attention to the act of blessing God with every fiber of your being. Why would you do that? Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me. Bless his holy name. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all of his benefits, who pardoned all of your iniquity. There's a Hebrew word for that. Wow! All of your sin, all of your failure, all of those ways in which you have disappointed God, through Jesus Christ and his sacrifice and death on the cross, that sin is carried away. Oh, I love the way the psalmist later on in Psalm 103 describes it. As far as the east is from the west, that far away God has taken our sin from us. What's the distance between the east and the west? Immeasurable. You cannot measure it. If you travel east, you will never get to the west. You'll just keep going east, and you'll go around the world again and again to the east. If you want to go west, you have to go west, and you'll never go east as long as you're going west, because there is an infinite separation. There is no point of the compass that is east, no point of the compass that is west. If you go north, you can measure the difference between where you are and where north is. If you go east, you can't measure the distance between east and between west. God has separated you from all of your sin, pardoned all of your sin. You know what that means? There is no doubt in our mind that God is on our side. There is no doubt that he is paying attention to us. There is no wondering, is God angry with me? Is God mad at me? For whenever we bring our sin before him, it is gone. As one preacher that I know used to love to say, it's like God took all of our sin through Christ and his death on the cross, and he carried it to the shore of the sea of forgetfulness, and he threw it way out in the middle of that sea and put a sign up on the beach saying, no fishing here. It's gone. And God has done that with every sin in your life. Sins of rebellion, conscious, willful. Sins of omission, the things you did not do. Sins of anger and pride and jealousy. Sins of gossip. Sins of weakness. God pardons all of our iniquity as soon as we bring it to him. Is that a reason to bless the Lord with every fiber of your being? Forget not all of his benefits, who pardons all of our iniquities, who heals all of our diseases. And here we have a very clear word, a very clear statement of promise. God is going to heal every disease that his children have. He will heal some of those diseases in time. He will heal all of them in eternity. And every time you and I have to deal with an illness, an affliction here on earth, we know one thing about that illness and that affliction, and that is one day it will be gone. Rhonda has just come through a treatment process for cancer in her neck, her salivary gland. Thank you all for your prayers on her behalf. God has used those prayers, and we're so grateful for the way she's come through all of that. But we know if it were something that God did not heal in time, God's still going to heal it in eternity. And this means that every single illness of every single child of God is going to end in healing for eternity. One of the most beautiful, beautiful, poignant moments that Scripture gives us for me is from the book of Revelation, when it says, as we come to stand before the Lord in that glorious last day, that God himself will wipe away every tear from your eye. You're done with this forever. It's over and will never be back. He heals all of our diseases, who redeems your life from the pit. Now, as long as there have been societies, there have been jails, okay? There are always people who misbehave. There are always people who have to be locked up, and people have always had jails in their towns and their communities. But how did you build a jail if there were no iron bars? What did they do for jails before you could build a jail? Well, it was not unusual to use a pit, a hole in the ground. That was where Joseph's brothers put him while they were deciding what to do with him. That's where they put Jeremiah when he was out of favor with the king, and on we could go. Daniel in the lion's den, that was a pit. And the thing about pits, you're there, you're at the bottom of a pit, and you can see the sky. And there's freedom that's just right there. But you can't ever get free. You can feel the breeze. You can see the moon of stars, the sun. But you're trapped. And you can't get out. And to wrestle with depression, discouragement, is often described by people who are in it as like being in a pit, close to freedom, but can't quite get there. Life does that to people. Gives you that sense of being trapped. and everybody around you seems to be free, you seem to be trapped. You can hear the voices, you can follow the conversations, but you're in the pit. Bless the Lord, O my soul. He has redeemed your life from the pit. This next one's my favorite. Who crowned you with loving kindness and tender mercies. It's unusual, isn't it? Whenever you see a crown, have you ever seen a crown? Have you ever laid your eyes on a real crown? I have. I've been to see the crown jewels of England. And I've walked past them, beautiful, ornate crowns, the crown of England that is only used on ceremonial occasions. It is gorgeous. It is beautiful, spectacular. Crowns are often made of gold, maybe silver, diamonds, rubies, emeralds, sapphires, jewel-encrusted crowns. Crowns are usually very beautiful, made of very precious things. But do you know the more beautiful, precious, expensive a crown is, the heavier it is to wear. Whenever the trustees elect a new president of the seminary, he starts work whenever the trustees say you start work. For me, my first day as president of NOBTS happened 1 week after I was elected. And you start whenever they tell you to start. Officially, they have an inauguration. That is sort of the public beginning of your presidency. And it's at your inauguration when you are presented with the presidential medallion. Every president has his own medallion. And there is a part of the ceremony, and happened right here on this stage, when this medallion was placed over my head, and I was officially president of NOBTS. And I wear it at formal functions with cap and gown, all the regalia. Now and then I have to go to something with all my regalia, and I have to travel with it, and I get some interesting comments from TSA when I take this through the airport. Little boys are really fascinated by this after graduation. I'm usually the last one to leave the plaza after graduation, just doing pictures and stuff like that. And little boys especially, sometimes little girls, they'll just stare and they'll really look at it. And I can say, do you want to touch it? And they always want to touch it or hold it. Adults sometimes too. And I can tell you, 100% of the time, people pick up this medallion, 100% of the time, and they'll say, boy, that's heavy. It is. It surprises people. Because being crowned as president of a seminary, a weight settles on your shoulders that you didn't have before. The weight of 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year, having complete responsibility for this seminary and its thousands of students and hundreds of employees. And the weight is something you feel. As a child of the King, God crowns you with loving kindness and tender mercy. How much does mercy weigh? How much does tender kindness weigh? And when you become a child of the King and you become a member of that royal family and a crown is placed on your head, it is a crown of loving kindness, a crown of mercy, no weight to bear, only blessings to share. Wow. Don't you love that image? Loving kindness and tender mercy. The next line shows that the psalmist really knew New Orleans well and loved to come to New Orleans. Who crowns you with loving kindness and tender mercies, who satisfies your years with good things. Many translations will say your mouth with good things. It's so much fun to eat in New Orleans. It's just so much fun. There's so many flavors and tastes everywhere you turn. Don't get any of us who live here started about what we really like, our favorite places, our favorite desserts, because we will talk your ear off that. The key word is satisfies. That what God brings into your life is a way to experience satisfy, to have contentment, to have your needs met. And real quickly, because we're running out of time, so that your youth is renewed like the eagle. We have the joy of having my mom and my dad here for the last years of their life. My dad passed away with dementia. My mom only had about 50% of her heart capacity. She had severe arthritis. For my mom to walk 20 yards was like you running a mile. She had a very difficult time moving very far at all. Severe arthritis, all sorts of other medical things. I can remember being with my mom in her apartment, talking with her when the grandkids arrived. And the best of all, the great grandchildren arrived. A little child would get on her lap and hug on her, and I literally watched the years roll off of my mom because of her joy, because her youth was renewed out of the love that she was experiencing. That's what God does for you. Now, are any of these things in that amazing list tied to performance? Any of them? Are any of them tied to your position of responsibility in the kingdom? Any of them? That means in the midst of your ordinary day, this is what God is doing for you. The amnesia of ordinary tries to take away your attention from who you are in Christ and what God is doing for you. The psalmist gives me and you some excellent advice on what to do with ordinary. Bless the Lord, O my soul, all that is within me. Bless his holy name. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and remember all of his benefits. Think of the things that God is doing for you right now in the midst of your worst day. Think of these things that God is doing for you in the midst of your crazy schedule. Think of the things that God is doing for you while you are making a really tough and complicated decision. Don't let ordinary infect you with amnesia. Remember. 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 And that leads me to this final question. So what have you forgotten? Is there any sin that you've forgotten to confess before God? That he might remove it and its weight from your soul. Is there an illness and affliction that is so weighing you down that you've forgotten God is going to take it away? It's just a matter of time. Have you forgotten that you're a child of the King because the people around you are treating you like dirt? Where are you in your remembering? I want to close with a word of prayer, and I'm going to ask Brother Ricky if you wouldn't mind playing for us a little bit. We want to just give you a chance. You see this altar? It's a preacher-only altar. This worship center, this is ours. No deacons allowed. No church members who are mad because you didn't visit them 15 minutes after they arrived in the hospital. This is ours. So I want to give you an opportunity. Boy, you've heard some wonderful things from these great men of God. What a great job Dr. Shaddix and Dr. Green have done for us. You've had some wonderful conversations. You've made some friends, I suspect, and are leaving here with people you didn't know before you got here. But has God spoken something to your heart, and is there something that you want to say to God? A blessing is something that you transfer from you to someone else. Do you need to have a time to bless God at this altar for preachers, at preachers' wives? We want to give you an opportunity to use this preacher's altar to bless the Lord with all your soul, your complete attention, your full focus, if you haven't been, to confess, to thank, to rejoice, to feel that crown of loving kindness and tender mercy on your head. This is your time before we leave. So we're going to stand together, and I'll just ask you all to bow your heads, close your eyes. If you want to come and use this preacher's altar, it's yours before I lead us in a word of prayer.